Taylor Allison Swift is an American singer-songwriter. Her discography spans multiple genres, and her narrative songwriting, often inspired by her personal life, has received critical praise and widespread media coverage. Born in West Reading, Pennsylvania, Swift moved to Nashville, Tennessee, at the age of 14 to pursue a career in country music. She signed a songwriting contract with Sony ATV Music Publishing in 2004 and a recording deal with Big Machine Records in 2005, and released her eponymous debut studio album in 2006. Swift explored country pop on the albums Fearless, 2008, and Speak Now, 2010. The success of the singles, Love Story, and You Belong With Me, on both country and pop radio established her as a leading crossover artist. She experimented with rock and electronic genres on her fourth studio album, Red 2012, supported by the singles, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, and I Knew You Were Trouble. Swift eschewed country on her synth-pop album 1989-2014, and its chart-topping tracks, Shake It Off, Blank Space, and Bad Blood. The media scrutiny on Swift's life-inspired Reputation, 2017, which drew from urban sounds. Led by Look What You Made Me Do, the album made Swift the only act in MRC data history to have 4 albums each sell over 1 million copies in a week. Parting ways with Big Machine, Swift signed with Republic Records in 2018 and released her 7th studio album, Lover, 2019. Inspired by escapism during the COVID-19 pandemic, Swift ventured into indie folk and alternative rock styles on her 2020 studio albums, Folklore and Evermore, receiving plaudits for their nuanced storytelling. Following a dispute over the masters of her back catalog, she released the 2021 re-recordings Fearless, Taylor's version, and read Taylor's version to universal acclaim. The #1 songs, Cardigan, Willow, and All Too Well 10-minute version, made Swift the only act to simultaneously debut atop the US Billboard Hot 100 and Billboard 200 charts 3 times. Besides music, she has played supporting roles in films such as Valentine's Day, 2010, and Cats, 2019, released the autobiographical documentary Miss Americana, 2020, and directed the musical films Folklore, The Long Pond Studio Sessions, 2020, and All Too Well, the short film, 2021. With over 200 million records sold worldwide, Swift is one of the best-selling musicians of all time. 8 of her songs have topped the Hot 100, and her concert tours are some of the highest-grossing in history. She has received 11 Grammy Awards, including 3 Album of the Year wins, an Emmy Award, 34 American Music Awards, the most for an artist, 29 Billboard Music Awards, the most for a woman, and 58 Guinness World Records, among other accolades. She has featured on Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest Songwriters of All Time, 2015. Billboard's Greatest of All Time Artists, 2019, the Time 100 and Forbes Celebrity 100 rankings. Having been honored with titles such as Woman of the Decade and Artist of the Decade, Swift is regarded as a pop icon due to her influential career, philanthropy, and advocacy for artists' rights and women's empowerment. 1989-2003. Early life and education. Taylor Allison Swift was born on December 13, 1989, at the Reading Hospital in West Reading, Pennsylvania. Her father, Scott Kingsley Swift, is a former stockbroker for Merrill Lynch. Her mother, Andrea Gardner Swift, née Finley, is a former homemaker who previously worked as a mutual fund marketing executive. Her younger brother, Austin, is an actor. She was named after singer-songwriter James Taylor, and has Scottish and German heritage. Her maternal grandmother, Marjorie Finley, was an opera singer. Swift's paternal great-great-grandfather was an Italian immigrant entrepreneur and community leader who opened several businesses in Philadelphia in the 1800s. Swift spent her early years on a Christmas tree farm that her father purchased from one of his clients. Swift identifies as a Christian. She attended preschool and kindergarten at the Alvernia Montessori School, run by the Bernardine Franciscan Sisters, before transferring to the Wincroft School. The family moved to a rented house in the suburban town of Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, where she attended Wyomissing Area Junior, Senior High School. At age 9, Swift became interested in musical theater and performed in 4 Berks Youth Theater Academy productions. She also traveled regularly to New York City for vocal and acting lessons. Swift later shifted her focus toward country music, inspired by Shania Twain's songs, which made her want to just run around the block 4 times and daydream about everything. She spent weekends performing at local festivals and events. After watching a documentary about Faith Hill, Swift felt sure she needed to move to Nashville, Tennessee, to pursue a career in music. She traveled with her mother at age 11 to visit Nashville record labels and submitted demo tapes of Dolly Parton and the Chicks karaoke covers. She was rejected, however, because everyone in that town wanted to do what I wanted to do. So, I kept thinking to myself, I need to figure out a way to be different. When Swift was around 12 years old, computer repairman and local musician Ronnie Creamer taught her to play guitar. He helped with her first efforts as a songwriter, leading her to write Lucky You. In 2003, Swift and her parents started working with New York-based talent manager Dan Dimtro. With his help, Swift modeled for Abercrombie & Fitch as part of their Rising Stars campaign, had an original song included on a Maybelline compilation CD, and attended meetings with major record labels. After performing original songs at an RCA Records showcase, Swift, then 13 years old, was given an artist development deal and began making frequent trips to Nashville with her mother. To help Swift break into country music, her father transferred to Merrill Lynch's Nashville office when she was 14 years old, and the family relocated to Hendersonville, Tennessee. Swift initially attended Hendersonville High School before transferring to the Aaron Academy after 2 years, which could better accommodate her touring schedule through homeschooling. She graduated 1 year early. 2004-2008, Career Beginnings and First Album. In Nashville, Swift worked with experienced Music Row songwriters such as Troy Verges, Brett Beavers, Brett James, Mac McAnally, and the Warren Brothers and formed a lasting working relationship with Liz Rose. They began meeting for 2-hour writing sessions every Tuesday afternoon after school. Rose thought the sessions were some of the easiest I've ever done. Basically, I was just her editor. She'd write about what happened in school that day. She had such a clear vision of what she was trying to say. And she'd come in with the most incredible hooks. Swift became the youngest artist signed by the Sony ATV Tree Publishing House, but left the Sony-owned RCA Records at the age of 14 due to the label's lack of care in them cutting other people's stuff. She was also concerned that development deals may shelve artists, and recalled, "I genuinely felt that I was running out of time. I wanted to capture these years of my life on an album while they still represented what I was going through." At an industry showcase at Nashville's Bluebird Cafe in 2005, Swift caught the attention of Scott Borchetta, a DreamWorks Records executive who was preparing to form an independent record label, Big Machine Records. She had first met Borchetta in 2004. Becoming one of the first signings at Big Machine, she wanted the kind of attention that a little new label will give, and her father purchased a 3% stake in the company for an estimated $120,000. She began working on her eponymous debut album shortly after. Swift persuaded Big Machine to hire her demo producer Nathan Chapman, with whom she felt she had the right chemistry. She wrote 3 of the album's songs alone, and co-wrote the remaining 8 with Rose, Robert Ellis Orrell, Brian Marr, and Angelo Petraglia. Taylor Swift was released on October 24, 2006. John Caramanica of the New York Times described it as a small masterpiece of pop-minded country, both wide-eyed and cynical, held together by Ms. Swift's firm, pleading voice. Taylor Swift peaked at number 5 on the U.S. Billboard 200, where it spent 157 weeks, the longest stay on the chart by any release in the U.S. in the 2000s decade. 2008-2010, Fearless and acting debut. Swift's second studio album, Fearless, was released on November 11, 2008. 5 singles were released in 2008 through 2009: Love Story, White Horse, You Belong With Me, 15, and Fearless. Love Story, the lead single, peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 in Australia. You Belong With Me was the album's highest charting single on the Billboard Hot 100, peaking at number 2. All 5 singles were Billboard Hot Country Songs Top 10 entries, with Love Story and You Belong With Me peaking at number 1. Fearless debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and was the top-selling album of 2009 in the US. The Fearless Tour, Swift's first headlining concert tour, grossed over $63 million. Journey to Fearless, a 3-part documentary miniseries, aired on television and was later released on DVD and Blu-ray. Swift also performed as a supporting act for Keith Urban's Escape Together World Tour in 2009. In 2009, the music video for You Belong With Me was named Best Female Video at the MTV Video Music Awards. Her acceptance speech was interrupted by rapper Kanye West, an incident that became the subject of controversy, widespread media attention, and many internet memes. James Montgomery of MTV argued that the incident and subsequent media attention turned Swift into a bona fide mainstream celebrity. That year she won 5 American Music Awards, including Artist of the Year and Favorite Country Album. Billboard named her 2009's Artist of the Year. The album ranked number 99 on NPR's 2017 list of the 150 greatest albums made by women. She won Video of the Year and Female Video of the Year for Love Story at the 2009 CMT Music Awards, where she made a parody video of the song with rapper T-Pain called Thug Story. At the 52nd Annual Grammy Awards, Fearless was named Album of the Year and Best Country Album, and White Horse won Best Country Song and Best Female Country Vocal Performance. Swift was the youngest artist to win Album of the Year. At the 2009 Country Music Association Awards, Swift won Album of the Year for Fearless and was named Entertainer of the Year, the youngest person to win the honor. 2010-2014. Speak Now and Red. In August 2010, Swift released Mine, the lead single from her third studio album, Speak Now. It entered the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 at number 3. Swift wrote the album alone and co-produced every track. Speak Now, released on October 25, 2010, debuted atop the Billboard 200 with first-week sales of 1 million copies. It became the fastest-selling digital album by a female artist, with 278,000 downloads in a week, earning Swift an entry in the 2010 Guinness World Records. The songs, Mine, Back to December, Mean, The Story of Us, Sparks Fly, and Ours, were released as singles. All except The Story of Us were Hot Country Songs top 3 entries, with Sparks Fly and Ours reaching number 1. Back to December and Mean peaked in the top 10 in Canada. Later in 2010, she briefly dated actor Jake Gyllenhaal. During her tour dates for 2011, she wrote the lyrics of various songs written by other people on her left arm. At the 54th Annual Grammy Awards in 2012, Swift won Best Country Song and Best Country Solo Performance for Mean, which she performed during the ceremony. Media publications noted the performance as an improvement from her much-criticized 2010 Grammy performance, which served as a testament to her abilities as a musician. Swift won other awards for Speak Now, including Songwriter Artist of the Year by the Nashville Songwriters Association, 2010 and 2011, Woman of the Year by Billboard, 2011, and Entertainer of the Year by the Academy of Country Music, 2011 and 2012, and the Country Music Association in 2011. At the American Music Awards of 2011, Swift won Artist of the Year and Favorite Country Album. Rolling Stone placed Speak Now at number 45 in its 2012 list of the 50 Best Female Albums of All Time, writing, "She might get played on the country station, but she's one of the few genuine rock stars we've got these days, with a flawless ear for what makes a song click." The Speak Now World Tour ran from February 2011 to March 2012 and grossed over $123 million. In November 2011, Swift released a live album, Speak Now World Tour, Live. She contributed 2 original songs to the Hunger Games soundtrack album, Safe and Sound, co-written and recorded with the Civil Wars and T-Bone Burnett, and Eyes Open. Safe and Sound won the Grammy Award for Best Song Written for Visual Media and was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song. Swift featured on B.O.'s single, Both of Us, released in May 2012. From July to September 2012, Swift dated Connor Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Mary Richardson Kennedy. 2014-2018, 1989 and Reputation. In March 2014, Swift began living in New York City. Around this time, she worked on her 5th studio album, 1989, with producers Jack Antonoff, Max Martin, Shellback, Imogen Heap, Ryan Tedder, and Ali Payami. She promoted the album through various campaigns, including inviting fans to secret album listening sessions. Influenced by 1980s synth pop, Swift severed ties with the country sound of her previous albums and marketed 1989 as her first documented, official pop album. The album was released on October 27, 2014, and debuted atop the U.S. Billboard 200 with sales of 1.28 million copies in its first week. This made Swift the first act to have 3 albums sell more than 1 million copies in their opening week, for which she earned a Guinness World Record. By June 2017, 1989 had sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Its singles, Shake It Off, Blank Space, and Bad Blood, featuring rapper Kendrick Lamar, reached number 1 in Australia, Canada and the US, the first 2 making Swift the first woman to replace herself at the top spot of the Hot 100. The singles, Style, and Wildest Dreams, reached the top 10 in the US. Other singles were Out of the Woods and New Romantics. The 1989 World Tour ran from May to December 2015 and was the highest-grossing tour of the year with $250 million in total revenue. 2018-2020, Lover and Masters Dispute. Reputation was Swift's last album under her 12-year contract with Big Machine Records. In November 2018, she signed a new multi-album deal with Big Machine's distributor Universal Music Group. In the US, her subsequent releases were promoted under the Republic Records imprint. Swift said the contract included a provision for her to maintain ownership of her master recordings. In addition, in the event that Universal sold any part of its stake in Spotify, it agreed to distribute a non-recoupable portion of the proceeds among their artists. Vox called it a huge commitment from Universal, which was far from assured until Swift intervened. Swift released her 7th studio album, Lover, on August 23, 2019. Besides longtime collaborator Jack Antonoff, Swift worked with new producers Louis Bell, Frank Dukes, and Joel Little. Lover made Swift the first female artist to have a 6th consecutive album sell more than 500,000 copies in 1 week in the US. All 18 songs from the album charted on the Billboard Hot 100 the same week, setting a record for the most simultaneous entries by a woman. The lead single, Me, debuted at number 100 on the Billboard Hot 100 and rose to number 2 a week later, scoring the biggest single-week jump in chart history. Other singles from Lover were the US Top 10 singles, You Need to Calm Down, and Lover, and US Top 40 single, The Man. Lover was the world's best-selling studio album of 2019, selling 3.2 million copies. The International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, IFPI, honored Swift as the global best-selling artist of 2019. Swift became first woman to win the honor twice, having previously won in 2014. The album earned accolades, including 3 nominations at the 62nd Annual Grammy Awards in 2020. At the 2019 MTV Video Music Awards, Me won Best Visual Effects, and You Need to Calm Down won Video of the Year and Video for Good. Swift was the first female and second artist overall to win Video of the Year for a video that they directed. 2020 present. Folklore, Evermore, and re-recordings. In 2020, Swift released 2 surprise albums to critical acclaim. The first, her 8th studio album Folklore, was released on July 24. The second, her 9th studio album Evermore, was released on December 11. Described by Swift and Dessner as sister records, both albums explore indie folk and alternative rock, departing from her previous upbeat pop releases. Swift wrote and recorded the albums while in isolation during the COVID-19 pandemic, working with producers Jack Antonoff and Aaron Dessner from The National. Both albums feature collaborations with Bon Iver, and Evermore features The National and Haim additionally. Alwyn co-wrote and co-produced select songs under the pseudonym William Bowery. The making of Folklore was discussed in the concert documentary Folklore, The Long Pond Studio Sessions 2020, directed by Swift. Folklore and Evermore were each supported by 3 singles in the US, catering to mainstream radio, country radio, and AAA radio. The singles, in that order, were Cardigan, Betty, and Exile, featuring Bon Iver from Folklore, and Willow, No Body, No Crime, featuring Haim, and Coney Island, featuring The National from Evermore. Cardigan and Willow opened at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 the same week their parent albums debuted atop the Billboard 200. This made Swift the first artist to debut atop both the US singles and albums charts simultaneously, as well as the first to do so twice. Each album sold over 1 million units in its first week globally, with Folklore selling 2 million and breaking the Guinness World Record for the highest first-day album streams by a female artist on Spotify. It was 2020's best-selling album in the US with 1.2 million copies. Swift was 2020's highest-paid musician in the US, and the world's highest-paid solo musician. At the 2020 American Music Awards, Swift won 3 awards, including Artist of the Year for a record 3rd consecutive time. Folklore won Album of the Year at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards, making Swift the first woman in history to win the award thrice. Following the Masters dispute, Swift released 2 re-recorded albums in 2021, adding Taylor's Version to their titles. The first, Fearless Taylor's Version, peaked atop the Billboard 200, becoming the first re-recorded album to do so. It was preceded by the 3 tracks, Love Story Taylor's Version, You All Over Me, with Maren Morris, and Mr. Perfectly Fine, the first of which made Swift the second artist after Dolly Parton to have both the original and the re-recording of a single reach number 1 on the Hot Country Songs chart. The second re-recording, Red Taylor's Version, was released on November 12. Its final track, All Too Well 10-minute version, accompanied by the namesake short film directed by Swift, debuted at number 1 on the Hot 100, becoming the longest song in history to top the chart. She was the highest-paid female musician of 2021, and both her 2020 albums and the re-recordings were ranked among the 10 best-selling albums of the year. In May 2021, Swift was awarded the Global Icon Award by the Brit Awards and the Songwriter Icon Award by the National Music Publishers Association. Swift further released Wildest Dreams Taylor's Version on September 17, 2021, and This Love Taylor's Version on May 6, 2022. They were featured in the trailers for animated film Spirit Untamed 2021 and Amazon Prime Video series The Summer I Turned Pretty 2022, respectively. Outside her albums, she featured on 4 songs from 2021 to 2022, Renegade, and Birch, by Big Red Machine, a remix of Haim's Gasoline, and Ed Sheeran's The Joker and the Queen. Swift wrote and recorded Carolina, a song for the film adaptation of Delia Owens's 2018 novel, Where the Crawdads Sing. She will appear in David O. Russell's period film Amsterdam, scheduled for release in November 2022.